Profound autism affects roughly 30% of the autistic population. And although this is a term not officially recognized by medical professionals, it is one used by families and individuals dealing with this particular diagnosis. It's most easily understood as profound or at level 3 because of the significant need that often accompanies it. These children and adults typically require 24/7 supervision, significant behavioral intervention, and often methods of speech therapy and communication therapy. The reason that profound autism is important to understand and to discuss is because it is often a topic that is swept under the rug by medical professionals, by society at large, and even by members of the autism community. We're going to explore all this and more today on the Aletheia Project. Welcome back. To best understand or to try and paint the picture of what life is like with profound autism, I want to give you a little bit of an example. Now, please understand first and foremost that I am in no way comparing adults or older children with profound autism to newborns, but sometimes it's just the easiest way to understand the significant level of need and often the mental and physical exhaustion that comes alongside of parenting a child with profound autism. Imagine you have a newborn. I'm sure many of you have experienced this, or perhaps you have a younger sibling or a cousin or a best friend who's had a baby. And you know that while this is a very joyous season in life, it is also really hard because that child cries a lot. They wake up a lot in the middle of the night. They're not able to tell you what they need or what's wrong, what's hurting. Maybe they put things in their mouth that they're not supposed to, or they keep you from being able to have a minute to yourself because they just want to be near you all the time. The newborn phase is hard, but ultimately there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know that eventually this child is going to be able to tell you what they want using words. They're going to be able to independently feed themselves and they'll sleep through the night. And you make it through this newborn phase largely due to that hope and also due to the community that surrounds you. Most of the time, people have family members or friends bringing meals, coming to help clean the house, or to take care of the baby. There's that support system when things are really tricky. And then eventually, that phase passes. For families living with profound autism, this looks a little bit differently. While their child may grow and they may develop the ability to communicate to some extent, many children are not able to communicate well at all. And parents are left living with this guessing game of why their child may be upset or hurting because they just don't know, and that child doesn't have the words to be able to express it. Or maybe their child is struggling with sleep and they get up every few hours with them just as they did when they were newborn. Only it doesn't last a year or 2 years. They've been doing this for almost 45. This is why I believe it's so important to talk about this particular diagnosis. These children and these families, they live a very hard life. They receive a profound autism diagnosis, and there is no roadmap. To best understand the challenges that these families are up against, I find it easiest to kind of look at it from a 3-point lens, through a medical lens, through a social lens, and also through advocacy lens when it comes to profound autism. And again, this is not a term recognized medically. It's most often referred to as level 3. High support needs and low ability to communicate verbally. When a family goes to the doctor seeking an autism diagnosis and they are given a level 3 or a profound diagnosis, oftentimes the guidance kind of ends there. Many families that I have worked with and talked to have told me stories of how they went to the doctor and they received this diagnosis and they received the list of all the things that their child would never be able to do and were ushered out the door and said, "Good luck to you." And this is really sad and something that I truly hope eventually the medical community is held accountable for, because those first few minutes of receiving that diagnosis really sets the stage for what these parents are up against in the months to come. These doctors, who could be their biggest advocates, often end up being some of their biggest hindrances, especially for families who maybe want to explore a more holistic route, or to see if maybe there is another medical condition that's contributing to their child's behavior needs or to their lack of communication. It is an uphill battle to get any type of testing, for doctors to agree to refer to specific types of therapy, and even for them to prescribe specific medications. Leucovorin was a very hot topic here just a couple of months ago, and it still continues to be a hot topic, especially among the level 3 autism families. So they're fighting a battle on the medical side, trying to get the resources and the testing and the nutritional supplementation for their child, and time again they're denied, or their doctors tell them, "Oh, that's silly. Your child doesn't have an allergy. That's not why they're having behavior problems." Then they're fighting battles on the social side. There are 30% of the autism community that deals with profound autism, but very rarely are you going to see those children out in society. Maybe in sped class or in a day hab, but typically not in the grocery store or at churches or movie theaters or restaurants. And why is that? That's because this population is one of the most isolated in the entire world, because they don't want to leave their homes, or maybe they can't leave their homes. They feel that they will be judged, misunderstood, met with indifference, perhaps. And most families don't just come to these assumptions on their own. They believe this way because they have experienced it firsthand. And so it's a battle to even get out the door in the morning, to access the therapies that they want, to be able to find teachers who will advocate for and love their children as fiercely as they do. So these families are already fighting a battle on the medical front, and they're fighting a battle on the social front. But now, more recently, they've begun to have to fight a battle on the advocacy front as well. And what do I mean by this? Well, autism advocacy is very unique in that people who have autism tend to believe that they are the experts pertaining to all things related to autism, which can be true, but typically, if you meet one person who has a diagnosis, you've met one person who has the diagnosis. And somebody who has level 1 or maybe level 2 doesn't necessarily get to speak on behalf of somebody who has level 3. But here's the problem. Many of the children and adults who have level 3 autism, profound autism, are not able to vocalize using words. And so maybe they rely on spelling or they use a talker device, but many rely very heavily on their caregivers to speak on their behalf, on their parents and their siblings. And the parents and the siblings are the ones being told that they should shut up, that they don't deserve to speak on behalf of their child or their sibling because they don't have autism. So how could they possibly know what life is like? And to do that, I have found, is just a huge disservice to the entire community, because these parents have so much wisdom to share, and they're so passionate about fighting to give their child the absolute best chance at life. And I want to share with you a brief story to hopefully kind of make this as realistic as it can be. I have a friend of mine based out of Florida, and she is a mom to a 15-year-old with profound autism. And right now he's going through puberty, and so he has very, very violent meltdown episodes. This is pretty normal, especially with boys who have profound autism when they go through that 15 to 19 age range. And she has been casting the net, asking for help, trying to figure out maybe what supplements they can introduce, or if there's a medication they can try, or if there's a social service that could come in and provide some behavioral therapy. And again and again and again, she's been kind of hitting roadblocks and dead ends, not able to find the resources that she needs for her son. And so she turned to an online advocacy group run by autistic people for autistic people and said, "Hi, here's our situation. Is anybody able to help? We want to try to attack this from a holistic side. We've done some therapy, but unfortunately it's not working. What are the resources you can offer?" And instead of being met with encouragement for trying to improve her son's quality of life, she actually had CPS called on her because the leader of this group decided that what she was doing classified as child abuse, because she wanted to deny her son certain foods to try and change his behavior. But she started doing a little bit of investigating and going into other groups online, claiming to be groups for autism resources, and asking the same question or similar questions. And time after time after time, she was met with shame. She was met with derogatory comments. She was met with another CPS case related to almost the exact same question, simply because she was trying to speak up and find resources that would increase her son's quality of life. And her story is not unique, sadly. Hers is one of many, many moms who have experienced similar things either online or sometimes even in person, where they're met with just egregious abuse from the autism community simply for reaching out and asking for help. They're shamed for trying to change their children when all they're trying to do is prevent their children from suffering. And her story is not unique. Hundreds and hundreds of moms have had similar experiences, have told me firsthand, or have told another mom who's shared with me their story of how they're simply trying to help find a way for their child to have a better quality of life, and they're met with resistance on all ends, from the medical community, from the advocacy community, and socially as well. And so why do I emphasize the many, many challenges that they face? Well, it's because the real question people are asking shouldn't be why is it okay for these parents to speak on behalf of these children, but why are we not listening to the experiences of these parents and of these siblings who are living the profound autism life every single day? And we ask these questions because can you imagine if all the brain power that's directed toward discrediting these families actually went toward trying to problem solve and figure out how to build a better world for these children? And really, what needs to happen is a roadmap. It's very simple. It's people working together to think about, okay, how can we make life easier so that when these children receive a profound autism diagnosis, and then when these parents are told that their child maybe has level 2 or level 3 autism, it's not a, here's this diagnosis and good luck to you, but here's this diagnosis and let me tell you the stories of other parents who have walked this road before. Here's doctors who are going to be willing to help you figure out if there's something additional that you can be doing to benefit your child's growth and development. Here's an amazing social group that's going to teach you how to advocate to get your child the therapies that they need or into the schools that would be helpful for them. Here's a movie theater that offers sensory-friendly showings, or a mall that keeps their lights turned a little bit low in the mornings so it's easier for you to come shop. Here's a neighbor who's going to be willing to help babysit, or here's a church that's willing to set up a meal train. If there was a roadmap for these families of resources, of communities willing to come alongside them, rather than being met with opposition on all sides, not only would the world be a better place for them, but it would be a better place for us as well. Some of my very dearest friends have profound autism, and I honestly don't know who I would be today without their influence in my life. And so I think it's just so unfair for all parties involved that these families have to live in such intense stress and isolation, and that we as a society are allowing them to do it. Honestly, might sound like a complex fix, but it's really fairly simple. It begins with you listening to something like this, educating yourself a little bit on profound autism and the challenges these families face, and taking a minute to stop and think, how can you help? What are some simple ways that maybe you can change to help the world be more inclusive? What if we as a society work together to build a roadmap that would help these families? Because life with profound autism can be scary, but it can honestly be really beautiful too, if these families are surrounded by the right support systems and encouragement that they need. Thank you for joining us on today's episode of the Aletheia Project. If you liked, loved, or hated what you heard, please feel free to comment down below, like and subscribe, and we hope to see you next time.